nothingness in order to explain multiplicity. We need nothingness to explain flux. So Parmenides, claiming that being simply is and non-being doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's unintelligible. It cannot be. Right? Well, Parmenides concluded that there can be no change, no multiplicity, or flux. Right? So we've got Heraclitus up here claiming that change and multiplicity and flux are, the constant. That's the one thing, that's the one condition that we find everything that we encounter in existence in. Right? It's all in a state of flux, and this all sort of makes rational sense to us through logos, a combination of reason and language. Right? Whereas Parmenides comes along and says, being is simply that which is not, cannot be, and can't even be spoken of. Nothingness doesn't make any sense whatsoever, so it can't be. Right? So, we've got no change, no multiplicity, no flux. Change, multiplicity, flux, no change, no multiplicity, no flux. And both Parmenides and Heraclitus seem to have sound arguments. You kind of understand the situation the ancient Greeks are in here. Right? This is like Stephen Hawking and Green getting into a debate. These are the big scientists of the age. These are the big wise guys, right? If they're going to if anybody's going to figure it out, it's them. Right? But the best of ancient Greek science has brought us to a point where there's a contradiction. They can't both be right. Can they? No. So the ancient Greeks responded to it by just throwing a big question mark on top of it. They had no idea what to think. Right? And they got to the point where it was so desperate that they said to themselves, well, perhaps human wisdom is incapable of approaching these problems regarding truth, the nature of the universe, etc. Perhaps we can't know. Right? And the people who picked up that call the best, right, were these ancient Greek sophists that appeared in the 5th century BC. Now, I point out every day has its sophists. Right? Who these guys were, they were teachers and they were tutors. So if you were a very lucky ancient Greek boy who happened to be the son of a landowner and therefore a citizen with property rights, well, if you were very lucky, your parents would hire you a sophist to come be your tutor. And what the sophist would teach you is mathematics, science, astronomy, and most importantly, rhetoric, a persuasive form of argumentation. Right? Now, these sophists were no dummies. Right? In fact, they were well studied, they were well read, and they were qualified to teach. But what did they teach? If the ancient Greeks knew that Heraclitus and Parmenides both seemed to have sound arguments, and they knew that both Heraclitus and Parmenides were in a state of contradiction with one another. Right? Ancient Greek science, right, the possibility of knowledge for the ancient Greeks, hung on trying to find a way to get beyond Heraclitus and Parmenides. Right? So what did these sophists teach? Perhaps we can't know anything. Right? Well, the sophists were well paid as teachers. Well, the reason they did so well is they taught this rhetoric, this persuasive form of argumentation. Right? These guys were skeptics, which also means they were moral skeptics. Well, if we can't know the truth, then we can't know the moral truth, so we've got no sets of standards to hold ourselves to. Now, our society, say these ancient Greek sophists, is based on this ideal of justice. Right? Athens was a democracy. And the name of the game in a democracy is to get the most people to vote for you. Right? And the best way, the way that the ancient Greeks had to get people to vote for you, was by presenting a persuasive argument. Right? So, perhaps we can't get at the truth, but we can certainly convince people that we're right. And this was the key in ancient Athens to attaining money, wealth, power, legal status, social status. Right? It's by this form of sophistry, right? This persuasive argumentation. Right? Now, I should point out here, right, that since we can't get past Heraclitus and Parmenides, sophistry seems like the option. But to a philosopher, it's not, or to an Athenian, if you take seriously your dedication to Athena, the goddess of wisdom, sophistry is not going to be enough. And in fact, the entire justice system in Athens was based on this idea that arguments operated in a way that allowed them to become more than persuasive. So there are two senses of the term argument. Right? An attempt to persuade. Right? That's the sophistic kind of argument. Right? You're attempting to persuade the other person that you're correct. Right? So when you're trying to win an argument, right? So when I'm out with a friend and we get into this argument about should we go for Thai or should we go for Chinese, pizza or burgers, right? What I'm trying to do in that argument is get my way. So saying, Chinese is way on the other side of the town, and Thai will be here much quicker, right? When I say, now let's order pizza, burger, we're going to have to go out for, right? These are supposedly reasons, but the reasons don't matter. All I have to do is convince somebody else to agree with me. I need to persuade them. So whether pizza or burgers are better than Thai or Chinese, it doesn't matter. The truth of the matter is never a question. Right? All we have to do is convince other people to agree with us. Now, philosophy, if it's going to be worth its salt, right, is going to involve a very different kind of argument. Right? Philosophical arguments get at what's truest or best. Right? These are the kinds of arguments that you're concerned with. You want to know what the nature of the beast is. Right? So when you're deciding, when you're arguing with yourself and presenting reasons for and reasons against, say, is switching your major, enrolling in a university degree in the first place, choosing between this job or that job, this car or that car, this house or that house.